Hey guys, it's Timmy, and this Wrestling Unlimited, as it's Friday, and this is the Wrestling Wrap-Up. A handful of news brought to you in one easy-to-watch video. As far as today's show does go, we're going to preview tonight's WWE Draft. We're going to talk about some potential call-ups. Give me 1 second. My camera settings are off. I need to fix this really fast. This is bugging the crap out of me. I'm going to tell you right now, nothing has wanted to work properly for me today. Give me 1 second. You're gonna see my curtains for a minute. See if that fixes it. All right, because like I said, nothing. That already looks so much better. Nothing has wanted to work for me today. Cameras, lights, other work stuff for my graphics business, and it's just like. It's that kind of a day, folks. It's that kind of a day. Nope, I didn't even click the right thing there. We're just going to run with it. This doesn't look great, but we're just going to run with it, and I'll get it fixed before tonight's SmackDown. But with that, we're also going to talk about WrestleMania 40, WrestleMania 41. We're going to talk about AEW Collision. We're going to talk about Impact Wrestling and a potential big name, maybe even major name, heading to the tapings tonight, and so much more, because again, this is the Wrestling Wrap-Up. Ooh, that was weird. I just lost myself there for a second. I don't know what happened there, but this is the Wrestling Wrap-Up. Every Monday and Friday morning, we talk about all the big news that you may have missed in the world of professional wrestling. We wrap it up into one easy-to-watch video, and we bring it to you twice a week. You can watch this video or this podcast or whatever you want to say a number of different ways, whether that's live on Twitch, twitch.tv/PW Unlimited, or live or later on YouTube, youtube.com/PW Unlimited, Pro Wrestling Unlimited. And also remember, you can catch this podcast on podcast platforms all around the globe, like Stitcher, Spotify, Google Pod, Apple Pod, Anchor, iHeartRadio, and so much more. Remember, if you are watching live on Twitch, you can help us out a couple of different ways. You can either help us out by hitting that donate button down below, or donating Twitch bits in the live chat. Also, remember, you can help us out by subscribing to the channel one of two different ways. You can either subscribe with a tiered subscription, or you could subscribe with Amazon Prime, because remember, if you have Amazon Prime, then you have Prime Gaming. And also remember, it doesn't just have to be your Amazon Prime account. It can be anybody's Amazon Prime account, whether that's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your grandma, your grandpa, your auntie, your uncle, anybody. Use that. You take the Amazon Prime, you take the Twitch, you link them together, bada bing, bada boom, you're Prime Gaming. Prime Gaming gives you a lot of cool things like free games, free stuff for games, and they will always give you one free subscription to any Twitch channel you want to subscribe to throughout the month, and I'd greatly appreciate it if you did right here, Pro Wrestling Unlimited. Also, remember, head over to YouTube and become a channel member. As a channel member, you get early access to news, early access to podcast episodes, early access to non-news videos, and so much more. And finally, head over to the Epic Games Store. Head over to the Epic Games Store and buy something. Whether you're getting the brand new Star Wars Jedi Survivor that just came out today, whether you're getting Crime Boss Rock A City, whether you're getting Disney Speedstorm, claiming the free games, are getting bucks for Rocket League, Fortnite, or Fall Guys, use our code PW Unlimited at checkout, and you will be supporting us at no extra cost. Remember, use code PWU NLIMITED. It's right here on the screen for all Epic Games and Epic Game Store purchases. All right. So, as far as our first news story does go, let's pop that there. Let's pop that there. Didn't really make that much of a difference. Yeah, nothing wants to work right today. Nothing wants to look right, work right. Anyways, first story we have. It's all about the WWE Draft. The WWE did reveal the, I guess you could say, draft pools, as they wrote the following on their website. Get ready for things to shake up again as the WWE Draft returns. Night 1 begins this Friday on SmackDown, followed by Night 2 next week on Monday Night Raw on USA. Each night of the draft, we'll see a unique pool of superstars eligible to be drafted. They are as followed. Now I'm going to read each night. We'll read night 1, talk about the interesting things from it, and then we'll read night 2 and talk about the interesting things from that as well. As far as night one does go, we've got Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Bobby Lashley, Candice LeRae, Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, Cody Rhodes, Damage Control, Bayley, Io Sky and Dakota Kai, Dexter Lumis, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Edge, Hit Row, Top Dollar, Shanti the Adonis, and B-Fab, Imperium, Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci, Lacey Evans, Matt Riddle, Maximum Male Models, Massey, Mansois, and Maxine Dupree, Mustafa Ali, Natalia, Omos with MVP, Shinsuke Nakamura, The Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa. We'll get back to that one. The Miz, The OC, AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Michin. The Street Profits, The Viking Raiders, Eric, Ivar, and Valhalla, and select NXT superstars. Now, the biggest thing to look at after all of this for night one is the Bloodline is only Roman and Solo. So one would assume that Roman goes number one, if not number two. Maybe SmackDown gets the first pick and drafts him. Maybe Raw gets the first pick and doesn't draft him. I still think he goes to SmackDown. Many people think he goes to SmackDown, but regardless, they're going to play up the Roman gets drafted early, and then the Usos are going to be like, oh, where do we go? Oh, where do we go? And then they got to go to Monday and be like, where do we go? Where do we go? Are we getting drafted with Roman and Solo? Are we going somewhere else? Are we going to Raw and they're going to SmackDown? That's going to be one of the big stories, and that's going to be one of the big, things they want you to talk about is, okay, so the Bloodline are probably getting split up, potentially getting split up. And they want you to think that for the entire weekend. Another interesting one is that Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville are listed all as a tag team, the two of them together. So one would assume that they could be going separately. Now, just because they're listed as a tag team doesn't mean someone doesn't go, oh, I just want Chelsea Green. We saw that with the New Day. The New Day listed as a tag team one year. And they were like, oh, we'll take Big E to Raw. Or no, to SmackDown. And we'll take Kofi and Xavier to Raw. So, Street Profits listed on night one as a full tag team, even though they're teasing splitting them up. So that's possible as well. But let's check night two and see what's available for night two. We got Akira Tozawa, the Alpha Academy, Otis and Chad Gable. Here's an interesting one. Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, listed as Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, which means they've gotten their full names back officially. Angel Garza, Humberto Carrillo. Asuka, Austin Theory, Baron Corbin, Braun Strowman and Ricochet, Brock Lesnar, Bronson Reed, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, Charlotte Flair, Dana Brooke, Elias, Emma, Johnny Gargano, Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio, Karrion Kross with Scarlett, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, LA Knight, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Nikki Cross, Piper Niven, Rhea Ripley, Rick Boogs, Riddick Moss, Randy, why did I say Randy? Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, Seth Rollins, Shotzi, Tamina, Tegan Knox, the Brawling Brutes, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch, the LWO, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and Zelina Vega, the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, the Usos, Jimmy and Jey Uso, Trish Stratus, Xia Li, and select NXT superstars. So some interesting things to look at here. First off, why is Trish Stratus on this list? Why is Trish Stratus available to be drafted? Like, okay, you draft Trish, whatever, but no Lita. I didn't see Lita's name anywhere, and this is alphabetically, so I could scroll right to where the L's should be. And we got LA Knight and Liv Morgan for night two. And we've got Lacey Evans for night one. No Lita in the draft pool at all. That's very interesting that you have Trish, no Lita. Other interesting thing is that Rhea Ripley not listed as Judgment Day. Judgment Day is just Finn, Damian, and Dominic. Rhea listed by herself. Now, maybe that's because she's a champion, but it's just okay. It's not 100% where Rhea goes, Judgment Day goes. I think it's possible, but it's not 100%. Again, where Rhea goes, Judgment Day goes. So that's another interesting thing to look at. Also, maybe I'm just looking too hard into this. Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae on different nights. Also, they did confirm the name change back to Riddick Moss here from Madcap Moss. But yeah, that's some of the biggest, like, interesting things from night 2. Again, Trish being on this list is like, what the what? Edge, I guess that makes a little sense since he's kind of been around for many years now. What, 2-3 years now? But yeah, those are the draft pools for night 1 and night 2. Everything kicks off tonight on SmackDown, and we'll see how it just all goes. But I'm interested. I'm happy for this, that they're doing it. I like the draft. The draft is always a very intriguing show to watch. And now the big thing is, who goes number 1 overall? Is it Roman? Because I thought it could have been maybe even Seth Rollins, saying like, Raw gets the first pick. They want the new belt, so they pick somebody like a Seth, knowing that SmackDown's going to pick Roman, giving him up to not have, to get the new belt. But Seth's a night 2. Seth is a night 2. So it's like, if Roman goes 1 or 2, which most think Roman's going to go number 1, who would go number 2? If Roman if Roman goes number 1, who goes number 2? Bianca? Drew? And remember, it's not just Roman. It's Roman and Solo. So, that's a tough one, though. Who would go? If Roman goes number 1, who goes number 2? That's a really, really, really tough one, in my opinion. Gunther? Imperium? Cody probably, actually. You keep Cody and what? No, I want Cody on the same brand as Roman. There's any people in chat say Cody. I want Cody on the same brand as Roman, though. That's my thing. Because how do you get back to Cody, Roman, the belt? You know what I mean? So we'll see where this all leads to tonight on SmackDown. We will be reviewing the draft in SmackDown tonight. Some big names rumored to be there. We'll talk about one of them a little bit later that apparently is there. Let's talk about NXT. Let's talk about potential NXT call-ups. So on WWE's draft boards and their pools, it says select NXT names. And I have a little rundown of everybody that's been rumored to potentially be called up in the draft that has been reportedly has interest from WWE management to be called up sometime soon and could be called up as soon as the draft. One that seems very, very likely and very, very possible, especially after this week's NXT break-in or spring break-in, is pretty deadly. Elton Prince and Kit Wilson. I think they're prime for the main roster. They're ready to go. They're great. They're perfect. And they got thrown in the river, the ocean, whatever. They're swimming with the fishes in NXT. They're gone. Bring them to the main roster. Some other names that we do know that have been reported recently is Zoe Stark. I think Zoe Stark's really good. Can use a little work on her promos as far as like making it not as obvious that she's reciting lines. But as I've said before, Zoe Stark is good with speaking to the media. So you bring her to the main roster, reassure her that she's sticking around for a while, and you use her in those kind of roles as well. But I think Zoe Stark is somebody that can't do too much more in NXT. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. She never won the NXT Women's Championship, but not everybody has to win a title in NXT or the main title before getting called up. Another name that is potential for the main roster is Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes' name has been floating around as a main roster call-up since like January. We've seen him on Raw once or twice when he recruited the OC to help him out and stuff. So that's a name that he's even worked a recent NXT or SmackDown, and they don't just bring in NXT wrestlers to work SmackDown. Maybe he's already kind of loosely been called up. Ilya Dragunov is another name that's been pitched for the main roster. I don't think he's ready for the main roster, especially the gimmick. I think the gimmick is not going to get over on the main roster with him doing his conductor thing, like during his entrance and whatnot. Great in the ring. I just don't see him getting over on the main roster with that gimmick, with the whole walking down to the ring. Like, I just don't see it. I like him in the ring. I think he's a fantastic bell-to-bell wrestler. But the gimmick, I think, is going to just die on the main roster. And I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong there. But other names that we do know that have been rumored for the main roster, one is Tyler Bate. Tyler Bate recently took on Dolph Ziggler on Main Event and impressed many on the main roster. And it's like, hey, maybe this guy needs to come up. He's been in the biz, in the company since 2016? When did they do that tournament to crown the first UK champion? It was 2016. And it's like we see Pete Dunne Butch on the main roster. Why can't we bring him up? Yeah, 2016. He's been with WWE. It's time. It's time to bring Tyler Bate up. But they're teasing him going after the North American Championship on NXT now. So what the hell? Another name that got a look this week, actually, was Joe Gacy. Joe Gacy did work a main event match this week ahead of Raw. So maybe that is and it's not always the case of if you get looked at for the main roster, you're going to get called up. Trust me, we saw Bronson Reed and Dakota Kai get looked at multiple times on the main roster for main event stuff and never get called up before they got released. But Joe Gacy is another one that some are saying could be coming up soon. If that's the case, what happens with the Dyad and all them? I think I have one or two more names. Let me just double check here. Some are under the impression that Braun Breaker can get called up, even though he's going to main event the next NXT pay-per-view or premium live event. So that's one to look out for. Maybe Braun Breaker gets called up with the thought of, hey, you call him up, and you can still go down there and fight for the NXT championship, maybe even bring that to the main roster. I don't know. And then another name, Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller is, I think, ready for the main roster. Grayson Waller has been losing a little bit more than normal in NXT recently, kind of like somebody that's on their way out of the brand. Those are some names that have been reported over the last couple of weeks that could be coming up to the main roster. Speaking of the main roster, the biggest thing the main roster does is WrestleMania. Next year, WrestleMania 40 will be taking place from Philly. They may be doubling on their main event as far as doing a rematch from this year's Night 2. This news does come from Give Me Sport by way of WrestleVotes as they write the following. A rematch between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes is, quote, on the table for WrestleMania 40, Give Me Sport has learned. In an exclusive interview with Give Me Sport, WrestleVotes explains that the main event of WrestleMania next year might end up being the exact same as the closing match of this year's show. WrestleVotes states, I can say this. The rematch, that's at the forefront of everybody's minds. Cody versus Roman is very much on the table to main event in Philadelphia next year. Now, this isn't a hard and fast saying this is going to be the match. This is the front runner. This is the match that's going to happen. No, that's not what it's saying. It's just saying that this is something that's on the table that has been discussed. And for all we know, yes, it's Cody versus Roman, but what if it's Cody as the champion, Roman as the challenger? Flip-flop it. Do something different. I would like that. Have Cody somehow this year beat Roman for the belt, whether that's a SummerSlam, whether that's somewhere else down the line after he maybe wins the, what's the word I'm looking for? Wins the Money in the Bank maybe. So that is something that is being discussed right now that, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I just lost my train of thought. It's actually happened to me a couple times today. Yeah. Main event could be a rematch from this year's main event for WrestleMania 40. Kid Vish is trying to correct me in the chat, saying that they crowned the first UK champion in 2017. Correct. But Tyler Bate was announced as being signed to WWE in 2016. December 2016, they announced a bunch of wrestlers that were going to be signed to their UK brand. And so that's why I said he started with WWE in 2016. I didn't say he became the UK champion in 2016. I just said that it was announced that he would be with WWE, and he's been with WWE since December of 2016. I said 2016. December of 2016. As we move forward, we talked about WrestleMania 40. There's some news going around as well on WrestleMania 41. So according to, well, actually, we know one of the front runners as far as what city could be hosting WrestleMania in 2025. According to CBS News and KFAN Sport Radio's Patrick Kessler, he does write the following on Twitter. Sources tell me Minneapolis is a finalist for WrestleMania 2025. This would be a huge get. So we had heard Minneapolis in the past for WrestleMania as far as pitching their name and putting their name in the hat, but it was never known if WWE was interested in Minneapolis. Now, if what Kessler is saying is true and Minneapolis is considered a, I guess you could say, finalist for 2025 in WrestleMania 41, and that would mean that, yes, WWE is actually interested for WrestleMania in Minneapolis. So that's an interesting one. That's a very, very interesting one. Do that in the USA Bank Arena where the Vikings play. So also, I think if they do go to Minneapolis, that'll be the first time that WrestleMania is ever hosted in Minnesota. That would be a first time. First ever WrestleMania in Minnesota. So this past Monday, we learned that CM Punk showed up backstage. He was there for no more than 25, 30 minutes, asked to leave, spoke with Triple H, spoke with Baron Corbin, spoke with The Miz, and, well, we got a little more info on this as far as the backstage reactions from some in WWE, as Dave Meltzer wrote the following. WWE talent generally thought it was weird he was there, but was asked to leave relatively quickly. Some thought it was a publicity stunt, and some thought he was looking to get back in. As far as why Punk was there, Meltzer states that Punk was doing some MMA announcing over the weekend, Cage Fury Fighting Championships, and when he was flying back home to Chicago, just happened to end up on the same flight as a bunch of people from WWE, coming from the Tampa, Florida area, the Orlando, Tampa area, Orlando, whatever they're flying out of. And Meltzer stated that Punk spoke with some of the people on that flight and had good conversations to the point where he thought he was actually being invited to the building by some of those people, whether that was the producers or wrestlers, because they were both on that flight. And then when he showed up, I wouldn't say got a warm reaction, but what I heard and what was being reported was everything was cordial. Everything was fine. Nobody like, oh my God, what the fuck is this guy doing here? What the hell is this guy doing here? Why is he here? Get him at it. And no, it was Punk is there. He spoke briefly with Triple H. Apparently asked if he can stay. Triple H said, let me see. And Vince was the one that was like, he's got to go. So, yeah. People just thought it was weird that he showed up. Also, he was in the parking lot with Tamina. Speaking of CM Punk, as we switch over to some AEW news, Punk is going to be the focus on this new Saturday show, which most likely would be called Collision on TNT. And Dave Meltzer writes in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter that along with what is expected to be either Punk is debuting on this show, or returning on the show, along with what is expected to be either another major name debuting or returning. We don't know what this means. Could they be signing somebody new and they're going to be on the Saturday show on the first episode with Punk? Could somebody big be returning? I don't see anybody big out. Like, who would be the return? Tanahashi, maybe, returns because we saw him here last year for Forbidden Door. Here's the question. When's Forbidden Door? Because if it's before Forbidden Door 2 or Forbidden Door 2023 is June 25th, which is, I want to say, the week after this Collision show is supposed to debut. So what if this return is Tanahashi? He goes face to face with Punk, and we get the match that we were supposed to get last year at Forbidden Door, Punk and Tanahashi. Just spitballing an idea there. Don't know if that's true, though. Now, as far as this brand split on this new Saturday show, it was previously reported that AEW Dynamite would feature the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and the Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli. As far as the Saturday show, Dave Meltzer wrote the following. The Saturday crew will be headed by CM Punk and FTR, and the Wednesday crew, the Elite and the BCC. There have been some rumors of Chris Jericho on Saturdays because Punk, in particular, will need a strong opponent. That could be why the meeting was arranged with Jericho. Now, there's a problem with this, though. It's going to be many weeks. Jericho may just have to miss the Saturday show and not be able to actually be there because Fozzy tours. Fozzy is on the road a lot doing weekend shows. So if there's a Fozzy show or a Fozzy tour on the weekend, he's going to have to be like, I can't be there. I can't show up. You're going to do without me. And we usually see Jericho on just about every Dynamite. So that's going to be an interesting one, that if you put a guy that has other outside activities on the weekend show, there's a good chance that he doesn't work all of the weekend shows. Now, some have asked, what's going to happen with Rampage? What's the deal with Rampage? What's going on with Rampage? And Dave Meltzer briefly spoke about this in this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter. Also, remember that Rampage tonight is at an early time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. But as far as Rampage going forward, Meltzer wrote the following. What we have confirmed is that TNT will continue to air Rampage on Friday nights for 1 hour. The idea is a talent split, with one group working Wednesdays and another working Saturdays, because Rampage is likely to be taped on Wednesdays. That would mean that it would be the Wednesday night crew predominantly. So there we go. That's what some were assuming, that Rampage will be filmed on Wednesdays as it normally is, and that the Dynamite crew will be the ones working Rampage. So that means your Saturday show guys, you're not going to see much, if ever, on Rampage. Doesn't mean that they can't work a Rampage. Doesn't mean that Tony doesn't go, hey, FTR, we want you on a Rampage, come to Wednesday this week. Okay. So, predominantly, the Dynamite crew, the Wednesday crew, will be the ones working Rampage. As we move forward, we have two stories from Impact Wrestling. One is a potential spoiler. That's why I did save it to the end, because we have two potential spoiler stories we're going to talk about here towards the end of the show. But I got to pull up this tweet because a big title match has been announced that I wouldn't say I got a problem with, but I kind of got a problem with. Pull this up on the screen. Impact tweets the following. Breaking. Deonna Purrazzo will defend the Knockouts World Championship against Jordynne Grace at Under Siege on May 26th, live on Impact Plus from London, Ontario. And if Grace loses, she cannot get another title match as long as Deonna is champion. Here's my little problem with this. Here's my one gripe with this. Do they not have any other women in this division? It's like every single time you see the Knockouts Championship, it's Deonna, Jordynne, whether they're the challengers, whether it's just them against each other. It's always one of them. Whether it's Jordynne is the champion and she's got another challenger. Deonna as the champion and she's got another challenger. Mickey as the champion when she was a champion. Jordynne Grace. Deonna Purrazzo. It's just always just the Deonna Jordynne show. They can't use any other women that they got over there. They got Rosemary. They got Giselle Shaw. They got Taylor Wilde. They got a bunch of women on that roster that don't get, in my opinion, utilized to the umpteenth degree that they should. Like, you're always just using the same two chicks. Different variations, but it's like one of them always has to be in the mix for some reason. I forget who said it recently, but recently I think it might have been Cody Rhodes. No, it might have been Seth Rollins, actually, who did an interview recently and was like, hey, sometimes you're getting that big push and it's your time. And other times you have to know that you have to take a back seat and it's not your turn and you have to give somebody else a turn. And that you have to let other people get pushed because sometimes you don't want to see the same people over and over and over get pushed. So you have to take a back seat sometimes and go from there. Kid Vicious says, Deonna already beat Taylor Wilde. Deonna's beaten basically everybody more than once. So, yeah, can't give me that one, Kid Vicious. Now, we're going to do a little spoiler here, potentially, for tonight's Impact tapings. And I'm going to throw the spoiler graphic up on the screen, and then I'm going to give you a 5 count on when we're going to start talking about this. Spoiler graphic is up here on the screen, and we're going to start talking in 5. If you don't want to be spoiled, take it off in 4. Mute in 3. Stop listening in 1. 2. We're talking in 1. So it was reported earlier this week that the former Naomi, Trinity Fatu, is coming to Impact Wrestling and will be debuting at this weekend's tapings. Well, it looks like potentially another big former WWE superstar could be debuting as well, as PW Insider writes the following. PWInsider.com can confirm that Mercedes Moné is in Chicago, the site of tonight's Impact Wrestling tapings at, I'm going to butcher this, Cicero Stadium. Moné was spotted in the Windy City today. She had been in Japan just a few days ago. As we broke earlier this week, former WWE star Trinity Fatu will debut tonight, which will air on next week's television on Access TV, and it appears Moné is at least here to either support Fatu or maybe debut on the show. Impact sources earlier this week denied Moné was appearing at the tapings when asked about this weekend. Fatu has supported Moné in the past with some of her big things, like traveling to the Tokyo Dome and being in San Jose as well. So it's not 100% that Mercedes is going to debut tonight for Impact, but she's there. She's been spotted in the city. She's there. Again, it's not known. And I'm going to, re-emphasize. It's not known if she's actually working for Impact or if she's just there to support Trinity. Now we're going to keep this spoiler graphic up here because we have one WWE spoiler to talk about as well. Give me one quick second. So as far as tonight's draft does go, tonight's Friday night SmackDown, things are going to shake up. And it looks like one former WWE superstar, or not former WWE superstar, former WWE champion is backstage at SmackDown. And now I've just lost that news. Give me one quick second, guys. Oh, here we go. This comes from Mike Johnson over at PW Insider. PW Insider can confirm that former WWE World Champion AJ Styles is in Texas ahead of tonight's Friday night SmackDown, which, of course, will kick off the draft. Styles injured his ankle in December of 2022 during a live event in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and while he did not need to undergo recovery forced him to be out of the ring for the longest period of time during his WWE career, including missing WrestleMania. PW Insider reported on 4/21 that it was just a matter of Styles being cleared to return by WWE Medical, and it would appear that has happened. Now, AJ being on this episode of the draft, or at least being at the draft, was always kind of like thought of as possible over the last week because he was on the graphic. Everybody else out injured, not on the graphic. AJ on the graphic. So there we go. AJ could be returning tonight on SmackDown. And then we finally get the full OC back together. Spoiler off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. With that, guys, that is going to wrap everything up here for the wrestling wrap up. Remember, tonight is Friday night SmackDown. It's the first night of the draft. So let's pull up the WWE SmackDown preview. Let's get that preview up and see what WWE is previewing. Only 3 things are being talked about right now as far as WWE does go. First off, we do know that the draft will be kicking off tonight. Also, we do know that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will be defending the WWE Tag Team Championships against the Usos in a WrestleMania rematch. And I don't know why I don't have the images here, but Zelina Vega will be taking on Sonya Deville. With that, those are the only things being advertised as of right now for tonight's Friday Night SmackDown. With that, guys, that's going to wrap everything up. I want to say thank you for joining me here, whether you watched on Twitch, twitch.tv/PW Unlimited, YouTube, youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Unlimited, or podcast services all around the globe like Stitcher, Spotify, Google Pod, Apple Pod, Anchor, iHeartRadio, and so much more. Again, tonight's the draft. Tonight is SmackDown, and we'll see you guys later after all that goes down. Have a good one, guys.